Welcome back everybody to Keenan K TV. In this video, I want to talk about Conor McGregor and his style. Recently, people have been saying that Conor McGregor was losing his step. He was losing the thing that made him great. He is changing his style for the worse. Now in this video, I want to talk about all of that and give my opinion on the matter. But before doing so, you may have already noticed that under my videos, you guys see three shopping items for the Keenan K TV merch store. Today is the day that I officially launched my merch, and if you guys want to support the channel, feel free to buy some merch. The link is also in the description and in the pinned comment down below. So with that being said, let's continue on with the video. This entire topic came to be right after Conor McGregor had fought Khabib Nurmagomedov. In the fight, people said that if the Conor McGregor that showed up at UFC 205 had fought Khabib Nurmagomedov, then we would have had a different fight, meaning that Conor McGregor's style, or the Conor McGregor that showed up against Khabib Nurmagomedov, was not the same fighter that they once had in their mind. Now, what was so drastically different from the Conor McGregor that showed up at UFC 229 compared to all of Conor McGregor's previous fights? Now, let's start off with UFC 229. What happened to Conor McGregor in that fight?
I grew up or fucking screw up. Got introduced to the game, got an ounce and fucking blew up. Chopping rocks.
To begin with, in my opinion, we didn't really see much from Conor McGregor in that fight. The opening of the fight was really the moment where we saw Conor McGregor at his full 100% gas tank. And I believe the gas tank is going to be the major key factor in how Conor McGregor performs and displays his style. Now in the opening of the fight, Conor McGregor seemed very active, very sharp, was able to push Khabib Nurmagomedov against the cage, and seemingly it was just another high-paced, right out of the gate fight from Conor McGregor, kind of similar to what it was against Chad Mendes. Against Chad Mendes, he came out of the gate right away, spinning back kick, and it was fight on right away. Now if you look at Conor McGregor against Khabib, in the first round, there are two things that we can break this down with. One, we can look at it in terms of arsenal. What did Conor McGregor throw in the round, and how did Conor McGregor behave while doing so? In the first round, he only really threw 3 shots. His left hand shot, a left high kick, and he tried to counter Khabib Nurmagomedov from taking him down with a knee. Now the other way that we can break this down is looking at it from a characteristic point of view. How did Conor McGregor behave, and how did Conor McGregor try and land these shots? From the opening of the fight, it was very clear that Conor McGregor's demeanor was very carefree. It seemed like he was not really fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov. Even in the in-ring face-off, Conor McGregor didn't seem too focused on Khabib. He was looking at the big screen, and seemingly this was not a focused Conor McGregor. That is one thing that we have to hold on to. But during the fight, yes, he did seem a bit sluggish and a bit impatient, and that is not something that the old Conor McGregor would have ever done. From the opening of the fight, he came right after Khabib to his left hand shot, and one thing that really caught me off guard was the fact that he went in for a left high kick. That early on, and taking that big of a risk against the wrestler. Now one thing that really surprised me the most was the fact that Conor McGregor met him with a knee as Khabib was taking him down. So we have established two things: the arsenal and the behavior of Conor McGregor in the fight. In terms of arsenal, Conor McGregor pretty much threw all the shots that he could throw. It didn't really seem like he had any problems with his shot selection. And taking a look at his behavior, it was pretty common. Conor McGregor always likes to come forward, pressure his opponents, especially against a wrestler. He doesn't want to give the wrestler the chance to back him up and pin him against the cage. He wants to keep the wrestler with his back against the cage, so he has enough room to sprawl and make the wrestler desperate, shoot in for a shot that he will counter with, and that is pretty much Conor McGregor one-on-one against the wrestler. Now, what was out of the ordinary was the fact that Conor McGregor was a bit more impatient, threw shots that didn't have a feint behind them or a setup. He just threw them out there. For example, the left high kick that really came out of nowhere, and Khabib Nurmagomedov was able to dodge it pretty easily. Going into the second round, if we apply the same breakdown, if we take a look at what he threw, which was a switch front kick to the body and a Superman punch attempt. Now, both of these shots were out of range, and he was just throwing them out of there without a setup or a feint. So this was yet again easily countered and avoided by Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now this was the round in which Khabib Nurmagomedov was able to catch him with a beautiful and fast and powerful right overhand. Following that, Khabib was able to keep up the pressure, get Conor against the cage and take him down. In the first round already, he had pretty much control time on Conor McGregor for what it seemed like 4.5 minutes. So now Conor McGregor is taken down by Khabib Nurmagomedov again, only this time Khabib was able to throw a lot of serious ground and pound shots, which without a question impacted Conor McGregor's stamina. Now this is a key thing in Conor McGregor's style, stamina. If Conor McGregor is fresh, he will look like a daisy. He will float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Now that Khabib took him down in the first and second round, it was pretty obvious that he was feeling it. He was feeling his stamina go down. He wasn't really as bouncy as he would be in the first round, and that was pretty much the case. However, he still looked good in my opinion. The third round was the round that he won. Now, why did he win this round? He won this round by doing exactly what he did not do in the first 2 rounds. Now, what didn't he do in the first 2 rounds? For one, in terms of arsenal, nothing new, right? He was throwing everything that he needed to throw, but the thing that he really had to change was his demeanor and approach to this fight, his mentality. He did not respect Khabib Nurmagomedov enough in the first 2 rounds. So by the third round, Conor McGregor respected him and took a way more calculated and calm approach. He threw his feints, he threw his body shots, teep kicks to the body. He did slow down Khabib Nurmagomedov. When he had Khabib Nurmagomedov with his back against the cage, he didn't overthrow, he didn't overcommit. He let him shoot in and he was able to defend all the takedowns in that round. When it comes to the fourth round, Conor McGregor was establishing a similar game plan. Calm and calculated, keep Khabib Nurmagomedov behind the black line, feint him, go to the body, and find your openings. Now obviously by this point, Conor McGregor has been through a lot already. His stamina, his gas tank, his endurance is already very much so diminished. And if you take a look at Khabib Nurmagomedov, he was able to beat Conor McGregor's skill with his fitness in that round, essentially outworking him and getting the fight to the ground and submitting him. Now that was the fight. And that was the moment where everybody was asking the question, what happened to Conor McGregor? Why did he change? So what really happened with Conor McGregor in that fight?
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't.
We can establish 2 things. Early on in the fight, Conor McGregor, he didn't show enough respect. He overcommitted on shots and was very impatient. By the third round, seemingly he had fixed what he did wrong and he won the round. In the fourth round, it was a bit too late. So all in all, I can sum up the performance of Conor McGregor like this: miscalculations of his opponent, overestimation of his skill, and being outmatched in terms of cardio. That was really the big demise of Conor McGregor in that fight. And that was not something that we were used to seeing from Conor McGregor. Coming off of his fight against Nate Diaz for the second time, he seemed very calculated, very calm. Now why was he like that? In the first fight, he showed exactly the same things that he showed against Khabib Nurmagomedov. He was impatient, he didn't respect Nate Diaz, he overestimated himself, he couldn't keep it up, he started to fade, and he lost the fight. Okay, so now that we have generalized the characteristics that were present in both of Conor McGregor's defeats, now we have to look at what makes Conor McGregor and the Conor McGregor that everybody seems to say is now forever gone. That Conor McGregor's characteristics were this: patience, movement, distance, timing, and precision. Against Khabib Nurmagomedov and Nate Diaz, patience, it was not there. Movement, it was very linear, only coming forward. Now, there is a big question mark that I have currently with Conor McGregor against Khabib Nurmagomedov when it comes to the movement department. One thing that I purposely left out of the Conor McGregor versus Khabib breakdown was the injured foot topic. Now, when it comes to Conor McGregor saying that he injured his foot, I would have to believe so. There is no reason not to believe Conor McGregor. He has always been honest. One thing that Conor McGregor is not is a liar. Conor has always been honest with his performances and very critical in the way he analyzes fights. So with his left foot being broken / injured, what did it really mean? In my opinion, looking back at it, the main thing still remained his mentality. But one thing that we have to also take into consideration is the physicality. Now, with his left foot broken, there was a glimpse of it in the third round when they were both in the middle of the octagon and Conor McGregor seemingly went for a left kick and he had to stumble because he seemingly didn't have enough stability on that foot. Another thing that this may be tied up with is the movement part and distance management. Because of the left foot being injured, unstable, whatever it may be, he had to rely on his front foot. So he was very heavy on his front foot, which meant that popping out backwards was not the most convenient of things, which in return had to force Conor McGregor to fight very aggressively and be on the front foot consistently. So this could explain why Conor McGregor was very flat-footed and very stationary when Khabib Nurmagomedov was going in and throwing shots. This could be that. And I would have to believe that it is a pretty valid argument. For example, against Chad Mendes, when he had injured his knee, when Chad Mendes was shooting him for shots, he was also being pretty stationary, and popping backwards seemed a bit of a big chore, as it was seemingly against Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now personally, this is not where, in my opinion, Conor McGregor's style changed from what everybody had in their mind. The fight where it all changed was, in my opinion, against Nate Diaz. Prior going into the fight with Nate Diaz, he just beat Jose Aldo, where he looked very light on his feet, in and out pretty quickly, was able to knock him out in just 13 seconds, goes in there against Nate Diaz, a bigger opponent, who Conor McGregor really didn't respect. He went in there, was impatient, overthrew his shots, gassed out, and got submitted. Now the biggest thing that we have to take away from all of this is the fact that Conor McGregor adapts to who he is fighting. He's not going to be fighting Jose Aldo the same way that he did Nate Diaz, and that is probably why he lost the first fight, because he was expecting Nate Diaz to not be able to take the shots that Jose Aldo was not able to. And at 145, he was a lot lighter. He didn't carry as much muscle, which in return meant that he could be a lot lighter for a longer duration, as he quickly found out against Nate Diaz that doing all that movement, throwing all those wild shots, that is not going to be lasting all that long now that he is a bigger fighter facing bigger opponents. So in the end, to summarize it all, I would have to believe that Conor McGregor, in the grand scheme of things, he hasn't really changed all that much when it comes to his style. He is still the come forward, patient, pressure fighter when he is on his A game. And when people say Conor McGregor, yeah, maybe he changed his style a bit too much ever since the Floyd Mayweather fight, personally, I think he got better from that experience. Now, if you take a look at his following fight against Khabib Nurmagomedov, it's not really that convincing of a performance. And that is exactly why the mentality was, in my opinion, the key factor to his performances. Conor McGregor, he used to throw a lot more kicks, that is without a question true. But at the same time, we have to understand that he has been fighting fighters who have had a bigger wrestling or a submission and a grappling threat. At 145, it was really Chad Mendes. And against Chad Mendes, when Conor McGregor opened up with a flying knee, boom, he got instantly taken down. He quickly realized that throwing those kicks, it is a pretty risky game to play. So he stuck with his fundamentals, teep kicks, fundamental boxing with great feints. That was exactly what Conor McGregor was from that moment on. Against Nate Diaz, after he got submitted in the rematch, his kicks were a lot more fundamental, a lot more basic, less flashy. He was able to conserve his stamina better and beat Nate Diaz in a 5-rounder fight at 170 pounds. Coming back to 155, he was facing Eddie Alvarez, another wrestler, better not throw flashy and risky kicks. Boom, he beats him. Goes in there against Khabib Nurmagomedov. What does he do? The complete opposite of what he did against Eddie Alvarez in a fight where he probably looked his best at. So after his long layoff against Khabib Nurmagomedov, he didn't show what he showed against Eddie Alvarez against Khabib. That was being patient, consistent, calculated, and efficient. Only in the 3rd or 4th round did he make those final adjustments, but that was when it was all too late. And to close it all off, in my opinion, Conor McGregor, he changes with the opponents that he is facing. In the grand scheme of things, when it comes to his skill, it is all still there. And currently, he is in the prime of his career. So when you think of Conor McGregor and you see a fighter who is always moving around, throwing flashy kicks, and if you want to see that Conor McGregor, you have to put him in there against a fellow striker. If you want to see Conor McGregor be calm, calculated, and patient, put him in there against a wrestler, because against a striker, he will throw those kicks. He will make it a flashy, beautiful fight. Against a wrestler, he will make it a calm, calculated sniper performance. Only if his head is in the right place will he be able to pull off those performances. And that is really the most important thing that we have to take away from this. The guys that Conor McGregor is fighting and the mindset Conor McGregor is in. Because by the time he fought Eddie Alvarez, he just came off of a loss against Nate Diaz, and he was still looking for something to hunt after. He was still very hungry. And if Conor McGregor is hungry, has his mind in the right place, I believe that he will just show what we all have forgotten about him. So ultimately, only time will tell what will happen with Conor McGregor. For now, this was my take on his style change. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to drop a comment down below of what you think of Conor McGregor's evolution in terms of style. If you would like to support the channel, check out my merch with the link in the description, or my Patreon where any member gets 20% off of my merch. As always guys, I have been Keenan from Keenan KTV, signing off. Later.